Welcome, everyone. I see that it is 4 o'clock, and I would like to welcome you all to the September 12th Executive Committee meeting, and recognize that Prince Albert is located within Treaty 6 territory and is the homeland of the Dakota and Métis. We extend our respect to all Indigenous people for their valuable past and present contributions, and recognize and respect the cultural diversity within the City of Prince Albert. Item number 1 is approval of the agenda. Mayor Dion.
I'll move the approval of the agenda as presented.
Thank you. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox Zepp.
Can you just tell her to raise her hand or something?
Councillor Lennox Zepp, raise your hand if you're for. Thank you. Motion carried. Next item, a reminder of declaration of conflict of interest that we all know that we must fill in the paperwork if there is. Okay, item number 4, adoption of minutes. Councillor Head. Sorry. Oh. Sorry. Out of practice. There. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Deputy Mayor. I'd like to move this motion, but there is a correction on the minutes I'd like to have noted, I guess. In there, it's saying that we're absent from the meeting, but both, and I'm just going to, Councillor Cody as well, we were both present for the meeting, but there were some technical difficulties that we're unable to patch in. So we weren't here physically, but we were available for that meeting, and because of our systems, we weren't able to participate. So I'd like that noted as well, please.
Okay. Okay. We are adding that item. It'll take just a few minutes. It'll be at the lower portion, right? Or, no, it's good? Okay. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox Zepp? In favor. Everyone has voted? Thank you. Motion pass. It's accepted. Next item up is delegations. Our first delegation is a request to implement wastewater energy recoveries, a virtual presentation by Dimitri Corlias, the Chief Executive Officer of Saskatchewan Renewable Energy Solutions. Welcome, Mr. Corliss. We're just hooking you up.
Just tell him, you can't hear him.
We can't hear you. Can you hear us? Can you raise your hand? Okay. Just one moment. We still are having trouble with your sound. Oh, we have you now. We have you now.
Oh.
So welcome,
Perfect.
welcome to council. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I will just share my screen and I will commence the presentation. See the screen here?
Yes. We can see it.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Dimitri Kurlis, and I am here to present on Shark Wastewater Energy Recovery Solutions, the foundation of low-carbon buildings. To start off this presentation, I'd like to start off with a land acknowledgement. It's very important that we start off every presentation this way to acknowledge the culture, contributions, and traditions of all Indigenous people of Saskatchewan and Canada, as they're very valuable in where we are today. Shark Energy Systems is the world leader in energy recovery from the wastewater we send down the drain every day. Innovators of the premier Canadian-made wastewater energy recovery systems for heating, cooling, and hot water production for residential, commercial, and industrial applications. We are Sask Renewable Energy Solutions, a social enterprise created to invest into the future of the province in Canada and help reach the net zero goal by 2050. Our vision is to help create a sustainable future by incorporating all three aspects of triple bottom line into our renewable energy projects: people, economy, and the planet. Shark Energy Systems is around wasted thermal energy, which equals to lost value in our buildings. Shark Systems help provide heating, cooling, and hot water by recovering the regularly wasted thermal energy that our buildings discard of every day. This offsets the usage of fossil fuel combusting HVAC equipment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Why Shark? Well, we'll recover thermal energy from a natural resource that's consistently wasted, reduce greenhouse gas emissions and energy costs consistently, increase carbon tax savings, provide resourceful system technical support and specialized knowledge. The systems are rock solid and reliable by a reputable Canadian-made company. Cities are able to receive commercialized carbon credits for every ton of CO2 reduced, as these systems are also remotely monitored for proof of impact, providing reports and rendering inexpensive annual maintenance costs and initial installation costs. We have the Piranha system for medium, small commercial buildings, and the Shark system for neighborhood energy systems, where all buildings are connected to a central plant. Starting off with the Piranha for commercial applications, this works very well in multifamily residential, community rec centers, student housing, care homes, hotels, hospitals, and more. This provides up to 100% of hot water to the building and supplies common area cooling, as well as heating through hydronic processes through its heat exchangers. This reduces natural gas boiler usage consistently and provides metering ability in multifamily buildings.
Excuse me, perfect. The sound just went, and I just wanted to not miss what you had to say. Go ahead. I think we have fixed it.
Oh, for sure. Where did I leave off there?
Right exactly where you're at. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Alrighty. Well, quiet, sanitary, odorless operation in buildings and has a system lifespan of up to 25 years. This is one of our initial projects, a 60-unit apartment building in British Columbia. Has reduced 9,350 therms a year, equal to about 20,000 meters cubed of natural gas, equating to 49.6 tons of CO2 reduced on an annual basis. It reduces this much CO2 as the Piranha system helps provide domestic hot water preheating and cooling for common areas to offset the natural gas boiler use. Onto the Shark system for district energy systems, as well as very large commercial applications. This is tailored for large, high wastewater flow rates, helping with heating, cooling, and hot water by pairing with heat pumps. This system helps reduce natural gas boiler and cooling tower use in an individual building or a district energy system with multiple buildings connected. The Shark also operates quiet, sanitarily, and odorlessly with remote monitoring and data trends to completely understand the impact the system is making. An example of both of our systems, the Piranha system and the Shark system, is in the Wall Centre Central Park in Vancouver, British Columbia. Phase 1 is 700 residential units using a Shark 660 system for heating and hot water requirements. Phase 2, which is 350 residential units, uses 2 quantity Piranha T10s running in parallel that help provide hot water to the entire building, as well as some cooling. Approximately, these systems reduce 69,000 therms of natural gas every year, equating to roughly 375 tons of CO2 a year across both phases, contributing to their LEED certification. The DC Water headquarters is another example of the Shark system. It's a project based at a wastewater lift station that sees 5 million gallons per day of average sanitary flow. By recovering the energy from this sanitary flow, we're able to provide heating to the building, which helps reduce 12.6 tons of CO2 a year through reduced natural gas consumption. But helps provide a substantial amount of cooling, taking up 96.7% of the building's load, helping reduce 1.5 million gallons of water every year by offsetting cooling towers in the evaporation and blowdown processes, also contributing to helping the DC Water headquarters, built on the wastewater lift station, achieve LEED Platinum status. District energy entails the use of a central plant to distribute efficiently produced heating, cooling, and hot water to a network of buildings. Cities can implement these into future community master plans, generate, monetize, and commercialize carbon credits to sell as an additional source of revenue, as cities are also able to sell the district energy system to an ESCO or energy service company to own, operate, and sell clean energy to the development, owning it in all or in part. Overall, district energy systems are scalable, expandable, and flexible, decrease the burning of fossil fuels, and allow us to reuse energy on a large level that would regularly have gone to waste. Here's a quick graphic of a district energy system, a central energy plant where the Shark system would be located, with heat pumps and chillers in the associated buildings in the district energy loop, helping provide heating, cooling, and hot water to these buildings in the low temp ambient loop at about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. An example of district energy would be in Falls Creek, Vancouver, where 5 million square feet, which is going to be expanded up to 20 million square feet in the coming years, recovers thermal energy from the entire district's wastewater and helps provide hot water and heating to residential, commercial, and industrial buildings that are looped into the station. Currently a 3.2 megawatt direct wastewater source heat pump in its currently planned expansion to 10 megawatts, having additional capacity with backup boilers. In this project, 2 Shark 880 units provide an average of 1,800 gallons per minute of filtration of raw untreated wastewater, then used as a direct source for the on-site heat pump. Here's the National Western Center down in Denver, another one of the district energy systems we're very proud of as a company. A 3.8 megawatt district energy system that uses 2 Shark 880 units, providing around 3,000 gallons per minute of filtration for raw untreated wastewater, then used as a source for the heat pump on site. The National Western Center, as a result of this district energy system, will prevent 2,600 metric tons of carbon dioxide from being emitted into the atmosphere every year, circumventing the need for burning fossil fuels. Overall, these are the Shark wastewater energy recovery solutions. The Piranha for small, medium commercial buildings like community centers, multifamily, hospitals, etc., and the Shark system for much larger commercial applications, as well as our future neighborhood.
I'm sorry, you have frozen, but just to interrupt, I'm hoping that we allow 5 minutes of the presentation, and so if you wouldn't mind doing a summary, but you are now not frozen,
sure.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so this is our last slide there, and we are here just to help the City of Prince Albert, as well as the province of Saskatchewan, invest into creating a circular economy through reusing, remanufacturing, and recycling the energy we use and the goods we produce. Thank you very much for allotting me the time today.
Thank you so much for staying with us through all you were supposed to present the last meeting and we had 0 technology, and then this time just a couple little glitches. So we're all getting much better at what's going on. Are there any questions for our presenter? Mayor Dion.
Thank you for your plan. Have you ever thought of putting dollars and cents to it? Because at the end of the day, that's what I look for. You know, what's the cost of the plant? What's my return on my investment? Have you done a slide presentation similar to this, but instead of putting terms and everything else in it, have you used dollars and cents? Because the first question I would normally ask is, what is our investment? Second question is, what's our return on our investment? So have you done any of that work?
Yeah, so there's been plenty of this work done in municipalities around Canada. To begin, it would all depend on what type of wastewater energy recovery project a city like the City of Prince Albert would look to target, either being a small to medium commercial sized one in a community center, which we are able to compile all data for regarding the economics of the project as well as the impact. But also on the other side of things, there is the larger Shark system that also helps out with new developments in communities where hundreds of houses are able to be looped in to a central plant where the wastewater energy recovery process takes place, which we also would be able to provide feasibility studies. So the cost of these projects depends very much so on the type of application, whether it is a district energy system that services numerous buildings at a single time, or whether it is in a single building like a apartment building or community center. The reason why there is not much financial data in the presentation today is because it was more so to be informative, but we are able to produce these numbers as well.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Corliss, for presenting today. You know, I do think that you have an interesting model here, but I agree with the Mayor. You know, you have to have some costing to it. What is the capital cost for a city our size? What are some of the options that we have available? You have major cities listed here with, you know, a high population. So yeah, that's what's missing, and I think for us to, you know, even consider more questions would be what's the capital investment here. So, but I thank you for your the information and for your presentation.
First, thank you for your question. And regarding the cost of these types of systems, that depends completely on the type of application we'd be looking at it for. So if the City of Prince Albert were looking to retrofit a community center, community rec center, that is when we would be able to produce cost estimates that are relevant to the site, but also are more so accurate. It wouldn't be right of me to just give out costs randomly on a presentation, not knowing the application that the solution would serve. So if it is an individual building, we're able to equate costs on that. When it comes to a district energy system, which is a whole other animal of itself, encompassing entire neighborhoods. So it would really just depend on what type of application we would be looking at, which is the reason why I did not find it appropriate to include financial cost estimates in this presentation, as every application is very, very different when it comes to these types of projects.
Well, thank you. Seeing no other presentation, we really thank you for this information. It was very informative, and in our council meetings, we do have the directors of the different departments, so I am sure people that really deal with that in our city are aware of it. So thank you very much for your time.
Of course, and thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda, oh, sorry. Almost forgot about the voting piece. Okay, go ahead. Mayor
I'll
Dion?
move the recommendation.
Thank you. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox Epp?
In favor.
Thank you. The motion is carried. The next item on our agenda is 5.2, delegations. Welcome to Everett Botha. Concerns regarding procedure and communications. Just one moment, I will set up the microphone. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kilmer and members of City Council and members of administration. The reason I'm here before you today is to discuss the City of Prince Albert's public consultation process or procedure, especially as it relates to the City of Prince Albert's procedure bylaw and public notice policy, and how this is communicated and most importantly perceived by the residents of the City of Prince Albert and other stakeholders. My main question today is why there are items that would go straight to City Council instead of an executive committee such as we have today. Items that go to executive committee afford you as the elected and the residents of the City of Prince Albert the time to digest, discuss and engage and hopefully submit correspondence with the request to speak to the elected, as I did when this item related to a sign was placed on the executive committee several months ago. You, as the elected, were afforded the opportunity to hear from stakeholders and residents prior to the item coming to City Council. There are items on today's agenda that have followed the same procedure and probably will continue, allowing for effective consultation with stakeholders and the residents of PA. For both the Executive Committee and City Council meetings, the City Clerk's office posts the agenda around 4 p.m. the Thursday preceding the next meeting of the Executive Committee or City Council meeting, which normally fall on a Monday. During this relatively short period, you as the elected, the stakeholders, and the residents of the City of Prince Albert and our local media have around 96 hours to read the agenda and prepare for the meeting. For an Executive Committee meeting, this is the first time an item would be on the public agenda, and since no decisions are made at an Executive Committee meeting except to receive and file or refer to administration or to a specific department or to forward to an upcoming council meeting, this time for public consultation normally gets the conversation started, and I do believe is more than sufficient. So from the time an item is first debated at the Executive Committee to the time it appears again on the next City Council agenda, stakeholders and residents are afforded the opportunity to engage. They can submit correspondence to oppose or support items on the agenda, or they can call their elected councillor to provide input, which often result in an inquiry submitted to the Mayor's office as per the City of Prince Albert's councillor inquiry process. Residents are invited to submit correspondence and any request to speak to a matter on the agenda by 4:45 the Tuesday prior to a meeting. This is where it gets tricky, confusing, and dare I say, sometimes frustrating. With an item that appears on the public agenda for a meeting of the Executive Committee, such as today's, this timeline makes perfect sense. Depending on the outcome of the debate and discussion at this meeting, if the item is forwarded to an upcoming council meeting, stakeholders or the residents have the time to submit correspondence, as the correspondence is reviewed on a Tuesday, discussed and reviewed during the agenda review on the Wednesday, and if applicable or seemed fit, it is moved on to the public agenda on the Thursday and debated at the upcoming City Council meeting. That is good, except when an item goes straight to the public agenda of City Council, which is posted on a Thursday, without you as the elected officials and representatives being afforded the time to debate such items at an Executive Committee first, let alone stakeholders and residents the opportunity to submit correspondence to their councillors. Such inquiries often do not get answered prior to the meeting, and the inquiry section of the public agenda is after the decisions are made, which means answers cannot be provided to you, the elected, or residents in a timely manner. Since the regular Tuesday timeline cannot apply, any correspondence submitted or request to speak to an item on the agenda that is received after the posting of the agenda may sometimes be presented to City Council electronically prior to or to stakeholders and the residents of the city at the time of the approval of agenda, during which nobody's had time to review or read such items in a sufficient manner, and too often stakeholders and residents are silenced as their items are not added or their voices are not heard. That's not really what public consultation is all about. Public consultation, as is the case with items that require public notice, should allow for at least 7 days before being presented to City Council. That's a suggestion. Too often, this lack in procedural consistency is used to fast-track other decisions that are likely to cause a public outcry. I can't speak for items that are not on the public agenda, or items that are never made public, because the in-camera meetings are a whole different gambit. But I can speak to items on the public agenda, and I would like to implore you as the elected and the administration to do better when it comes to public consultation and debate, and to be more consistent and transparent in the way items are added or advanced to the public agenda. And to the very least, allow for debate on all items at an Executive Committee before adding it to a public agenda for City Council's consideration. This will really allow for public consultation and engagement. This will allow for debate, and this will allow for all voices to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Botha. Are there any questions?
Tara Lennox up for the queue.
Okay. Go ahead. Councillor Lennox up, go ahead.
Thank you. This question is, so firstly, thank you very much for the speaker for coming in and presenting today. We have heard in the past on items that members of the public do see on our website that we have a deadline. If members of the public want to speak or have an item onto the agenda, if they view the agenda on the Thursday that it comes out, if they then make a request to speak at the meeting, they are already past the deadline being the Tuesday. And that has created frustration by members of the public where they wish to be able to speak. I guess I have a question for the city manager. City manager, do you see any way that we might be able to clarify our process on that topic on our website so that people right now reading our website sometimes tell me that they read that the deadline has passed before the agenda even became
Just
public?
excuse me one moment, please.
Yes.
We have right now questions for the speaker. So if you wouldn't mind, do you have a question for the speaker? And then,
guess-
once the speaker is finished, then we can continue with the question. I just want to give the
Thank you.
speaker an opportunity to sit down.
Certainly. Question for the speaker. Does the speaker have any suggestions on what I just described, the issue of the deadline being the Tuesday, and then the public perhaps being able to clarify to the public on that process?
Thank you, Councillor Lennox-Zepp and Deputy Mayor. I think the verbiage on the website itself is confusing. And when we look at an agenda posted on Thursday, if somebody goes to the city's website and it says you need to submit correspondence by 4:45 p.m. the Tuesday before a meeting, that falls outside of that scope. That's perfectly fine if an item has been on executive committee first, because then a member of the public or a stakeholder knows that it's going to come back to council and they can submit correspondence that Tuesday before the next meeting. I think that's a good start to see whether that process can be clearly defined. I understand that, when an agenda is posted, that it can't be changed, and that there is room for improvement in terms of amendments or additions to an agenda. I think the concern is that, if it's 3 or 4 or 5 letters that may be submitted in relation to an item, that very often those letters aren't presented to the public. There is an approval of the agenda during those council meetings, and very often those items may not be added. So, with 96 hours for the members of the public to read and digest items on the agenda, so 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, they might look at it on a Thursday evening or on a Friday, email their city councillor will send an inquiry for some answers. They might not get those answers before the decision is made the following Monday at the city council meeting. I don't know, and I know we've asked this before, whether there could be a longer period when the agenda is posted to really just afford residents and stakeholders to read those items on the agenda, because sometimes an executive item comes back a second or a third time, which gives a lot of time to inquire. But just right now, as the verbiage is stated on the website, it's unclear, and the process itself may need to be amended.
Thank you for your suggestion. Any other questions for the speaker? Councillor Grodnick. Whoop, sorry.
Thank you,
Councillor
Deputy
Grodnick.
Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple comments, and then I do maybe have a question. When you're elected to make decisions, which is in the best interest of the residents that have elected you as well as the city as a whole. That's what we're elected for. With respect to two key words in the letter that was sent to us, City of Prince Albert, if the City of Prince Albert is serious about public consultation and transparency and governance, that is something that needs to be remedied. Well, when it comes to public consultation, the city, and we do a ton of public consultation, every committee meeting. I mean, we have all these committees, and that's where public consultation takes place. People that are representing the city, members of the public that represent the city come and make suggestions. They voice their opinion. They speak on behalf of the residents of Prince Albert to that committee. That committee then is brought, the recommendations are brought forward to this body or directly to City Council. And on City Council Day, you have until 1 o'clock, I do believe, to get on the agenda for public consultation, if you want, or public forum, I think it's
Public
called.
forum. That's correct.
So that happens. We have had public meetings galore about all sorts of issues, community meetings. With respect to transparency, transparency means openness. And words matter. And when we come to openness, I think we have been very open, and I have spoken out against people that aren't being open. I've spoken out against pamphlets that get distributed under anonymous names. I spoke out against websites that are slandering people, defaming people right now on council. And so I would ask the speaker, do you agree with that? That whether you're on council or whether you're a member of the public or whether you're a member of an advocacy group in the city of Prince Albert, do you believe in transparency?
Go ahead.
If I may respond to that, I can't speak to criticism of elected officials.
No, I'm asking, do you believe in transparency?
Transparency?
That-
What is your question regarding transparency? We're here to talk about matters on the public agenda with City Council.
No, I'm asking,
and
do you believe in
You're asking a
transparency?
question back to me.
Excuse me, everyone. In this portion of every council meeting, this is a question and answer. It
Yeah.
is not a debate.
I know
And
it's
so
not a debate, but I wanna-
I caution everyone in the chambers that it is not a debate. Just simply answer the question.
Yeah. Do you believe in
And then we
transparency?
need
That's the
to-
question. It's a very simple
We
question.
need to move on.
If,
I'm here to advocate for it, so yes.
thank you. That's no further question, or no further
Thank
statements
you.
or question.
Councillor Edwards, question for the speaker. Oh. I hit the wrong button. And before we move on, in that last portion, Councillor Ogrodnik referred to the public forum as being 1 o'clock. It is actually noon. Yeah, no worries. Go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just for clarification, you did note my name in your letter. It almost read as if we had communicated about inquiries into City Council. Had we communicated in any way about the information you placed in the letter?
So until today, this is the first time, unfortunately, I couldn't be here the last time.
Yeah.
And just to replying to your name being mentioned in that letter, at the time, it was a specific snapshot as an example. You may notice that I didn't go into any other details today, but typically, if a resident would send an inquiry to an elected official, it has to go through that inquiry process, and you have to wait for those answers.
I understand the process for sure. I was asked by some residents that if I had communicated with Mr. Botha and if I had asked him to debate the issue or bring forward the issue on my behalf, because that's kind of the way it looks. And I just want to ask you, had we communicated?
No, we have not, and
Yeah.
me or somebody interpreting or reading into that is probably incorrect, because I use that as a snapshot of
Yeah.
this process.
Probably, just in general, maybe city councilors, but you used my name specific for some reason, I'm not sure.
Sure.
So that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mayor Dion.
Well, I just want to follow up on what he said. If you took a snapshot, so the words in bracket, if you're lucky, was that part of the snapshot? Yes or no?
Is that a question or a statement?
Go ahead.
Well, Mayor Dion, when it comes to inquiries sent in via the inquiry system, and I can recall during my term on council not so long ago, that sometimes answers aren't provided.
He's off the question. He referred to a snapshot that he was using with Councillor Edwards.
Correct.
Going back into history.
Correct.
And he said he took a snapshot, so my question was the part that he put in brackets part of the snapshot? And the answer is no. So, I don't want to.
I did not hear his answer to that. Did you? I'm sorry, Mr. Botha. Would you mind answering his question?
So when it comes to getting answers to inquiries, not all inquiries are answered.
Okay. Are there any other questions? No? Seeing none? Thank you very much for coming and presenting to council. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council.
Okay.
Chair,
Councillor Lennox
up
up.
for the queue.
Yep. Councillor Lennox up. You are first.
Thank you. I move that city administration provide a response to the letter writer and council.
Oh, you've made a motion?
Yes,
Sorry.
I move that city administration provide a response to the letter writer and council.
City council and letter writer. Okay.
And then if I could just ask, I did have a couple of questions for the city manager.
Go ahead.
Thank you. To the city manager, any thoughts about how we might be able to clarify our deadline procedure and that people can, even if it's after the deadline, after the Tuesday, that people, members of the public are able to request that their item be added to the agenda at the approval of the agenda. I'm just wondering if the city manager has any thoughts on that.
Go ahead, city manager.
To Councillor Lennox Epp's question, I think on the website, we could clarify that if you have correspondence and it is after the deadline, that you could simply contact the city clerk's office and they could review it, the specific matter with the individual, things like that. So they can at least contact the city clerk's office and the city clerk's office can speak to them specifically about their item and may advise them about a further process, but we could do that.
Okay.
And then, thank you. And then my last question, which is to the city manager as well. Do you think there are ways that we could make it more clear what items go to executive committee?
Go ahead, city manager.
Currently, the city clerk's office, in conjunction with the communications area, had developed a guide that is on the website for individuals to understand what the difference between council, executive is, those types of things. We can review that guide, and we can review the Q&As that are actually on the website regarding council and executive. So we could look at those and revise them to ensure that the public will understand the process more clearly.
I appreciate the responses. Thank you.
Councillor Lennox Epp, can I ask that we add the word receive as well because in your motion, just to save us some time if it happens to pass?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple comments on this whole concern. Is it a widespread concern? I don't know. I know whenever an agenda item comes up, like I'll get phone calls from residents and just asking for clarification, et cetera. I've never had an inquiry not answered. If I had an inquiry for today's meeting, I would have got it by this morning for sure. answered if I submitted it. I know the city clerk, and the public might not know this. I mean, we get correspondence from the city clerk on weekends, evenings. I mean, how much more work would we expect of an employee? I mean, I couldn't believe yesterday, like she was working yesterday on a Sunday with information and stuff for us. Like, I mean, that's above and beyond what is expected. So I have to commend our past city clerk and our present city clerk for their prompt response. The mayor's office, when I submit an inquiry there, I get a response that we've received your inquiry and it's being forwarded on. Or sometimes I'll get a response that we received your inquiry and it would be better served as report a concern or report a problem. And then that's what I do. But I've never not had a question answered. I don't always like the answers. Today I got one. I didn't like the answer, but I get the answers, and the public has opportunities to come. We live stream. Our words are all recorded, which is actually quite good now that people know exactly what we said. And the letter, calling out Councillor Edwards, I just think that was wrong. In fact, I'm the one that submitted the inquiry about the sign. That was me. I'm not scared to say that. I was the one that submitted the inquiry because I had some concerns. I had residents that had some concerns. So I submitted the inquiry about that, not Councillor Edwards. So that's an inaccuracy there. I do agree with the motion that when we receive letters, it's definitely our responsibility as a council and as a city to respond to people's questions. It might take some time because sometimes people send in a lot of questions and administration doesn't have time to answer and spend their entire day answering questions. They have work to do, and a part of their day could be spent on answering questions if there are. But I do agree that we owe anybody that sends a letter to us the courtesy of a response. That we received your letter, and you will get a response within 90 days. If I put in a motion, it's within 90 days that I get a response. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone Councillor Zurkowski.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Chair. It's interesting. During the passage of time, in a certain segment, a few years go by and you get criticized for making too slow for making decisions. It takes too long. Businesses want to get rezoned. They're looking for incentives to get passed by council. There's all sort of rezoning issues, whether economic or social changes that need to occur. Why does it take so long? We need an answer. There's too much red tape at City Hall. And then every once in a while, you get criticized for making decisions too fast. Not enough public consultation. Didn't ask everybody. You have to wait. Slow down. It's an interesting conversation. But at the end of the day, to me, you have to look at best practices. And when you talk to other cities across Saskatchewan, we're doing pretty good. There's some cities that don't even have public forum, that don't allow the public, a segment of their public meeting to allow public to attend. We do. And we had an honest conversation about that a couple of years ago when we fought to make it stay. I think that's important. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But is democracy perfect? It sure ain't. Nope. But it's better than the alternative, I think. The turnaround from a Thursday to a Monday meeting, it's tight, for sure it is. And it's frustrating sometimes, for us as well. It is. That's our job. It's our job. We do our homework as best we can, we answer the questions, we get the answers, and we come into the meeting on Monday, we ask those questions again so the public can hear the answers, and we make the best decision we can with the information we have at the time. If the public is interested in an item on Monday at a council meeting and the short turnaround is in play, I don't believe we've ever denied anybody to speak at a related item that came here at a public council meeting, even though it's not allowed in our rules of engagement. Motion is made and we allow those people to speak. That's how we do things. Seems to work pretty good. Do we get it right all the time? Nope, we don't. But we do the best we can with the information we have. And we try to make small steps forward as time goes on. We do more good than harm. I think we do a pretty good job of that as a city and as a corporation. I don't recall the speaker ever, when the speaker sat on this side of the bar, ever bringing a motion or having caused a motion to pass successfully that was raised dealing with this issue, with this item. That may have been more effective than what we saw here today. I think that would have been more effective. So, those are my thoughts. Is it perfect? Nope. I think that's why, in terms of best practices, we take a look at what other municipalities do, what works for us in Prince Albert, and we review yearly in our strat plan our inquiry process, our engagement with the public, and we move forward. The public puts us here and expects us to make decisions, and if they don't like the decisions we make, then somebody else is here. But in the meantime, I think it is prudent to review the processes we have, which we have done at our recent strat planning session, and we all had the opportunity to express our thoughts on some of the issues. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you. Okay, there's no one else in the queue. We are going to open the vote on the item as soon as I find the vote. Oh. Okay, thank you. Gotcha, thank you. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox Epp?
In favor.
I'm missing one. Thank you. The vote carries. Thank you. We're moving on to the next portion of the agenda, which is the consent agenda. If people would like to leave, feel free. There we go. Okay, item consent agenda. Anyone would like to pull any items? Mayor Dion.
6.2.
Thank you. Councillor Zurkowski.
Thank you. 6.3, 6.5, and 6.8.
Any others? Someone willing to move this motion? Go ahead, Councillor Miller.
I'll move the motion to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, the consent agenda, remaining items is now open. Councillor Lennox Epp?
In favor.
Thank you. Vote carries. The first item on the consent agenda is Mayor Dion, item number 6.2. Sorry.
Right. I forgot to turn the light on. Thank you. I'll move the recommendation. I just want to thank the sisters. They're in present today. It's been a long time for them on this project, and lots of stressful nights, lots of sleepless nights, but they can now move on to the next step of their journey. And I just want to thank them for making Prince Albert a better place, and we'll always acknowledge them. They'll always be in our heart because they're a major part of our history. And I just want to wish them the best in their retirement and their next step and phase of their life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it inappropriate for us to? Thank you. Thank you so much. Councillor Ogrodnik.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too want to thank the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary for their contributions to our community, for their dedication to education. I am a product of many of the sisters, and one sister that I have to mention that I absolutely loved was Sister Jean Lear. Sister Jean Lear was my elementary school principal, and she instilled in us, it was at St. Mark in Midtown, she instilled in us a sense of being a part of a community. And at that time, we had students that came to our school from the orphanage. Sister Lunday would come with them, and Sister Jean and a couple other nuns in the half-ton truck. Sister Jean would be driving. It's still when they wore the full habit and everything. And one thing that she did, though, is I remember fondly going to church every Friday, and we went to Mass at St. Mark, and then after Mass we went to the basement, and Sister Jean said to us, God has filled your hearts with love. Now let's fill your bodies with warmth and love. And she then served each one of us a cup of hot chocolate. And I'll never forget that. And she just was a remarkable lady. Tough on the outside, but a beautiful lady on the inside, and treated us so well at St. Mark. And St. Mark was, we had some tough kids there, and we always she always made sure that we won at sports, and coached like crazy to make sure that we won. You play to win, but when it's done, you accept whatever the results are. So I have fond memories of her. And then 7 and 8, I went to the academy before it became Rivier. And so, again, wonderful people, wonderful school, wonderful memories. And so I thank you. And I also want to congratulate the sisters for finally getting Mother Marie Rivier sainthood. And she became a saint and was canonized, I think in June it was, May it was. And she's now Saint Marie Rivier. So congratulations on that. Well, and thank you again for your contributions to our community.
Thank you. And thank you. Before we move on to the vote, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the letter, and just to acknowledge all past councillors that you acknowledged, and all the past employees, mayors. I'm hoping that if they're hearing us, that they take the time to look at your letter, and I'm certain that they wish you well as well. So moving on to the vote. Yeah, I got it. I just got to find it. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox Zepp.
In favor.
Thank you. The vote is closed, and the vote carries. Next item is item 6.3, Councillor Zurakowski. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just in terms of process, sort of maybe a little bit in the rearview mirror, what got us here today, and put this correspondence in front of us, and what does it mean to the department? And has the department had a look at it? I see the motion in front of us is to refer it to planning, which I think is, so I will move the motion.
Okay,
But
thank you.
just if there's any foreshadowing that's available for us as to where we go now. It seems to be, we're in a little different place than we were last time this item was on the agenda. So just a little bit of maybe insight.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Zurikowski, for the question. There's a few different options that we do have if this correspondence is referred to us. I know that the Mustard Seed has done a lot of work when it comes to communicating with potential stakeholders. That has been an informal process that they took on independently, right? Not in conjunction with the department. So normally with a use such as a shelter, I'd want to make sure that I do the same. I'm thinking the downtown improvement, the business district, right? The surrounding administrative team and so on and so forth. And then from there, I would suggest that I report back to executive committee, just with some general input on what similar shelters throughout the province and the success of those shelters and things like that. What this would eventually lead to, a formal decision of council would be a development permit. So following a certain level of comfort, once City Council is a little bit more educated on the request, then I think you'd be in a position to refer it back to us for a formal permit to be made or make another decision. So that is what my suggestion would be. I hope that helps.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. So if this is referred to the department, would that, received and referred to the department, and what I've heard is there'll be some review to go on with some stakeholders. Would that include Dr. Chad Nielsen, some perspective from what he's got going on over here, some conversation with PAGC with their programming that they may have or may not is going on? I think that's a question I'll speak for myself, I have, is will this supplement what's going on? Are there gaps in that service delivery? So I guess my short question is, at this time is, will that review include those types of people who have some engagement and invested?
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Zurikowski, for the follow-up question. It certainly can. Again, this is not an informal public notification process where you notify everyone within 75 meters, right? However, our public notice policy does allow us to go above and beyond what our Planning and Development Act, for example, suggests. So if there are some specific organizations that you would like their input on, I'm going to start making a list here, and I can certainly tell you how it might or might not impact our homelessness initiative that we're working on. PAGC you referenced as well, so I can make note of those, and if there's any more, I'd be happy to listen to those. So yes, long-winded answer is it certainly can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think that would be helpful so that we all hear the consistent answer rather than members of the elected going out and about and looking for separate conversations, having separate conversations, perhaps getting different interpretations and perspectives of the issue. I think coming from one source through one effort, I think would be helpful as we gather back here at some date in the future.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just was looking at the model for the emergency shelter, and it's always been a concern of mine, and I get it, it's cost, but it's in the evening and out in the early morning, and I feel that it just doesn't rectify a lot of the concerns that we have in the downtown area where they have no place to go in the daytime. And I think that's been the general model across most of the shelters that we have. I understand its cost, but I just wanted to express my concern that, and that's what I understand, and that's what I hear is during the day is also a concern of where they go, and they seek other warm-up shelters if there are any. So I just wanted to voice that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a question to the director, if he knows this, and the Mustard Seed organization. It's a private company, correct?
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Having not worked with Mustard Seed before, I don't want to speak on their behalf. I know we do have a representative today if you want to direct them questions, but I would hesitate to speak on their behalf.
Okay. Yeah, see that, yeah, I don't have a problem with private corporations. I think what I have a problem with is anybody, like, people need to be paid for their services, there's no doubt about it. I don't have a problem with that. People need to be paid for their services. But what I have maybe a concern about is if an organization is making money off homelessness. And I'm not sure if this organization is or not, and that's a question that I would like asked before I would vote in favor of opening up a shelter run by any private organization. They're going to be receiving, I remember at the last meeting I asked the question, and the answer was 50% of their funding comes from government. And that's great. I'm glad government is supporting groups and organizations that want to deal with homelessness, with poverty, etc. But do these organizations, and this one in particular, do they make a profit and turn a profit for shareholders, or do they have a board of directors, etc., that make money off of this? That would be my concern, and I guess that question will be asked unless you have an answer to that. I don't know if you have an answer to that, Director.
Go ahead, Director.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I would defer that question to the Mustard Seed, and I can certainly follow up with them to get you a definitive answer.
Yeah, I would like that answer. If they do turn a profit, and then are they in fact making money off of homelessness? That I have a problem with, if that is true, if that happens. So once it's reviewed, this is reviewed by your department, it'll come back before us at council, and then I'll be able to ask that question before I vote in favor or against a particular proposal. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grodnick. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple comments. I'm really happy to see this back on our agenda. I'm a little worried didn't pan out the last time you had presented the location. I hope this one is more suitable. You know, and those are great questions that we need answered to move forward. But at the end of the day, we have a company here looking, or an organization here looking to assist us with some of our homeless, issues we're seeing throughout our city. And so, thanks to the Prince Edward Grand Council for some of the work they've done. And now we have another group here looking to assist us here in our city. And I thank you for that. And I hope it does kind of work out. I imagine these questions will be answered and will be on their next agenda. So good luck for sure. We need this in our city.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else in the queue. I'll open the vote. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Councillor Zurkowski.
Just an effort to bring some balance to the conversation. My recollection is that they were funded also by, it's a church-based organization, and they were funded a lot through donations within or without the church structure. So I think those questions, those factual questions are important to be reviewed and discussed as well. But I think the work that the department is going to move forward on, I hate to see that held up because it sounds like a big job. And I think we need to get moving on that because that's going to take some time.
Mayor Dion.
Well, that sort of sparked me. When you talk to Mustard Seed and you're doing the review, could you ask them if they, because I've been told no on both cases, but maybe I went to the wrong department, do they have any approved funding from the provincial government, federal government, or the Grand Council? I made inquiries, but I didn't know what department to do, and all three of them had said no. And so I think that's important to us too, that if we're going to approve something and take some heat, that they have to have stable funding to make sure that they can operate and not come back to us and say, yeah, we're up and running, but we didn't get funding. So I think funding too is so if you could ask that question, please. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the queue, I'll prompt the vote. The vote is open. Councillor Lennox up.
In favor.
Thank you. Vote is carried. Next item is item 6.5, the school zone and area review. Councillor Zurikowski.
Thank you. Sorry. Different page. So a couple of thoughts. I don't quite understand the concern. I think that, let me start with the end in mind. I think that if we wanted to really affect some change in and around elementary schools, one of the first things we should do is go talk to the in-house administrator. What causes you concern about the kids' safety? This feels a little bit to me too top-down. I've spoken to administrators over the last number of years, and they're certainly frustrated with Bubba Smith parking on the crosswalk over top the speed bump and letting the kids out. The U-turns that occur daily, the dozens of them. The parking in the wrong areas. It's okay, it's my kid. I'll be right back. Sure. How can we assist the elementary schools to do what they do better in a safer way? Is this the best place for bus parking? Are their lines and the curbs painted the way they need to be? Those are meaningful issues that I think would be appreciated by the in-house administration, and that would help be more meaningful to cause increased safety in elementary school zones. Let me take one location here on 28th Street, next to Arthur Peachy on 28th Street. I see no reason why that needs to be restricted to 30 kilometers when it's already restricted on 4th Avenue and on that nearby street on 26th Street. So I'm speaking about that one because I know that one intimately and I see it on the list. I suspect there's other school zones in the city that share the same concern. I love this subject. That's the title of this chapter is Increase in Safety in Elementary Schools. Perfect. But the first and the last paragraph in this chapter, I think, are poorly written, and I think we need to go back and have a revision.
Thank you. Mayor Dion.
Well, I'm very disappointed with the report. I knew when I asked for it, the answer was going to be because the department does not support our request. So that's how they answered it. They didn't do any research, so I did some research. I talked to the 4 biggest gravel haulers that come down 15th Street by Queen Mary. Thank you for bringing this up. We are like a loaded train coming down 15th at 50 kilometers an hour, and if anyone pulls out in front of us at that school, we cannot stop. We are like a train when we're loaded. We need more distance. So I asked them if they had an issue with it. They said, I got to tell you this, we tell lots of our drivers now to slow down because we know how dangerous these trucks are when they're fully loaded. And this year, that street's been extremely busy because, of course, we're rebuilding highways, we're rebuilding streets, and unfortunately, 4 of the biggest gravel pits we have are at the end of that road. And so they didn't take safety into concern. They just took, well, it's an arterial, and you shouldn't put a speed zone on an arterial. Well, why? Like, that's a very poor response. So I did expect it. So I'm not going to support the recommendation. I will be bringing a motion from council requesting that we vote on putting school zones in. My colleague to my left brought up a perfect example. We didn't ask them to lower the speed on 28th Street. They added that. The main entrance, people are not dropping their kids off on 28th Street at Arthur Peachy. They are not. They're going either on the 4th or the side street. And so I was very disappointed in the report, and I intend to take it further because I have been researching and talking, as my colleague to the left said, let's talk to the schools. It's all about safety. And when I talk to the truckers, I know Queen Mary is not, I'm gonna not let that one go for sure, because when they tell me they're like a train, you know, when it comes to stop, and you get that unfulfilling person that forgot not to make a U-turn, with the kids there and they make a U-turn, we're gonna have a disaster. And then we're gonna look at it. It's like the old saying, how do you get a stop sign at that corner? Well, you wait till somebody gets hurt. You know, even though it's the right thing to do. So I am very disappointed in the report, and I'll be bringing a motion forward at our next meeting to solve this issue and let council decide what council wants. Thank you.
Okay. There is not a motion on the floor. Is there a appetite to put this motion on? Go ahead, Councillor, or Mayor Dion.
I move that we instruct Public Works to implement a 30-kilometer school zone on all schools on related streets. So I don't want them to go do it on 28th Street. It's more where the drop-offs are. The schools will tell us. You know, most of them we can figure out. Queen Mary, you got to do that. The one by my house, St. John. So, and it's all about safety. You look at other cities around us. I'm surprised. We just came back from the Canadian Police Convention. Lots of cities now are putting 30-kilometer speed zones around parks and recreation centers. I don't want to go that far, but it's about pedestrians and cars don't mix. So I think this is a reasonable request. I haven't got an outcry from the public. And so that's my motion, that we move ahead with putting school zones in at schools.
Just one moment. We're just working on the motion. Councillor Zurikowski.
While I appreciate the spirit of the motion, I'm leery, I'm looking at the words in front of us, of unintended consequences. And this is, the motion in front of us that's being typed out, I think can end up in a lot of different places that causes us to take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. My belief is a good starting point is go talk to them. And the needs of Queen Mary may be different from the needs of Berezowski. The needs of Queen Mary may be different from the needs of John Diefenbaker. But let's go ask them what their needs are. If that's truly our intent is to increase safety, to me, that's where it should start. This motion, to me, still strikes as a little bit too top-heavy, and we'll deal with one location, and there will be unintended consequences in others. So I like the conversation, but I think we need to be a little bit more holistic and open up the conversation.
Councillor Cody.
Yeah, I will not be supporting this motion, that's for sure. I think we're making a mountain, a molehill out of a mountain here, a mountain out of a molehill here, when we talk about the fact that that the report wasn't done very well. Well, you know something, they did do a lot of work on this report. They went back 10 years. They went back 10 years, not an accident did he ever find, not one. Surely that speaks for itself right there. Why are we so concerned about this when in fact, I'll tell you what, I've got several of them in my writing. I haven't heard one word. Not a person has ever come to me and said, why don't you slow these people down by St. John's School? I've never heard that word. And I think this motion is actually out of order, to tell you the truth, because it needs to be a notice of motion before that you can bring in a motion of this nature. I'm not going to support this motion, and I'm hoping that it gets withdrawn and that we do a bit more study, if that's what you want to have. And as I think Councillor Zurikowski said, there might be some places where these are necessary. With the big gravel trucks coming down 15th, yes, that's probably pretty dangerous. But you know, I don't have any gravel trucks coming down on 15th past St. John's School, and it's on the end of the schoolyard, not even where the kids are. So to slow the traffic down to 30 there, I think it'd be silly.
Thank you, Councillor Cody. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So seeing where this is coming from is from our police commissioners who are asking us to make some of these changes. And I kind of agree to some of the comments here. You know, I have concerns with Queen Mary's as well. I know I'm covering my brakes when I go down that road by Riverside as well. There's a few schools I have. But to make this decision today that we're going to implement this, you know, I'm very careful and cautious to make that decision. I think more information has to come forward. I mean, the report talks about some of the accidents we see, but I know there's been an incident and near miss an accident at Riverside around the school a couple of years ago here. So this isn't, you know, it's mentioned in the police commissioner's report. So I would think that talking to these schools, looking at some of the needs, yeah, let's get the administration involved and see what some of their suggestions are as well before we make some final decisions today would be my hope. So I am reluctant to support this motion as written today, but I think that more work needs to be done. And of course, we want to keep our children safe and our pedestrians safe. And so, you know, that is utmost important to, I think, this council. So looking at this a little further is the direction I would rather go and talk to administration to find out what some of their needs are.
Thank you, Councillor Head. Mayor Dion.
I'm going to ask Councillor Zurikowski to help me rewrite it because I agree. The only reason I'm saying it, though, is I don't know if I want the same writers that don't support the motion doing the report again. So that's one of the things I struggle with. So I might have to refer to the city manager's office because I want someone with an open mind, not, no, arterials, the book says, page 7, paragraph 6, you don't put speed zones in, school zones on arterial. So I'm going to put that the city manager instruct administration, she can't do it, instruct administration to meet and consult with the schools that are on main arterials that are not 30 kilometers an hour for their input, and also any other concerns that they may have in that area that would make it safer for the kids. Is that perfect? Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think we made a lot of progress in school safety over the last couple of years within my term on council anyways. You know, with the assistance of SGI and provincial government, the speed bumps that have been placed, or traffic calming devices, whatever you want to call them, I call them speed bumps, and also those signs that say, you know, 30 kilometers and start flashing when you're going faster. Those are in school zones. That has been a great addition to safety in those areas. My frustration, well, and when I look at this list, I mean, you know, St. John's School at 15th Avenue, personally, I don't think we need to slow traffic down there. There's already a light there for crossing 15th Avenue where you have to stop. Vincent Massey has one on 28th Street. There's a light there that stops traffic. So I'm not sure we need that, and I'm sure Holy Cross has one, even though that's crazy at 3 o'clock to 3:45 going through there. I think everybody does slow down in that area because there's so many buses and so many cars and people dropping people on and off. My frustration, though, is on Brannion, where I live. The people that park in the crosswalks, where there's signs that specifically say no parking, and that's where I empathize with the staff. Like, it's hard for them to tell them to move, you know. But maybe that's where we could have police start ticketing people when they're parked in those areas, because that's what makes it dangerous. You have the speed bump there, you have the light there telling you to slow down, the flashing light, and then you have people parked all along there picking up their kids and causing, I think, a dangerous situation when a kid goes out into that crosswalk, that speed bump crosswalk. So anyways, but we've come a long way. That's my point, is we've come a long way in making our school zones safe. a lot safer, and we still have improvements. And I like what Councillor Zurkowski said about consulting with the staffs, because they're the ones that know best. The staff that are out on supervision, they know what's going on. Talk to them. Talk to the administration of those schools, and then let's get it right. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be supporting this motion, and I just wanted to let council know that what my thoughts are. I really appreciate what everyone has, our safety and the safety of our residents and our kids in mind. But that infamous "not me" person for just this minute does bog our city down. That person named, not me, I can park here for this minute, or ignore the sign. So I just wanted to bring attention to an item that the communications department has put forward, and is hoping to help have the schools get involved in creating a little, nothing's better than our student voices and our youth voices saying, hey, here's a crosswalk and be careful about me. And maybe that will go viral and help parents and guardians understand, please pay attention to the signs. So with that, go ahead.
To have one word, elementary schools. Consult with elementary schools because we treat high schools differently. And I'm worried about the little kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tara Lennox up for the
Go
queue.
ahead, Councillor Lennox up.
Thank you. Just a question for the mover. Is the mover's intention that this item come back to council? Because if it is, I don't know if the mover would want to put in that we hear this issue again at an upcoming meeting or not.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I'll have the city clerk add it. I just assumed it would come back because it's a follow-up to this report that we didn't accept. So I just thought it was follow-up, but we'll add that in there to make sure we get it.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no one else in the queue, I will move to vote. Just one moment. Here it is. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox up.
In favor.
Still awaiting some votes. If people could take a look, and we're waiting, thank you. The vote is now closed. It carries. No worries. Okay, next item is item 6.8, August 2022, updated status on capital projects. Councillor Zurkowski. Go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of questions, if I may. On page 5 of 17. Here we go. I wonder if we could just have a wee bit of an update. Some of the information there was helpful. The Little Red River Park, all that fantastic work that's going on there, that's really going to improve not only our city, but the park. Folks are so excited about it. But I wonder if I could sneak in a question about maybe some detail about when it's done. I'd like to be able to give folks an answer more than, I don't know, it looks good. It's going to be great when it's done, but even a rough timeline, and it seems to be a project that's growing, which is great. Folks are excited about it, but I'm always uncomfortable saying I don't know, because that happens naturally enough.
Okay.
And if I may also, I'll tag onto that, the stages of development, when we talk about the, I guess that's a Public Works question, so I'll pause. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank
you.
you,
Go ahead.
Councillor Zurikowski. Definitely the Little Red River Rotary Adventure Park project has certainly taken on a life of its own. I've certainly learned a lot about this project. Sometimes it's better to go in with a little bit more caution than to be so optimistic at the beginning. And this is certainly a project that's much bigger in scope than I thought it was going to be at the beginning. So the most honest answer I can give you today is in speaking with the contractor, we're hoping to complete all structural development by the end of this month. I am not confident that this year will be the year to see that park open to the public, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One is finishing work. I want to make sure all the finishing work is completed, the pathway system is completed as well. I'm treading carefully because I didn't think the scope of this project would be so big. I'm excited to see what the end result is going to be. And I do apologize, Council, that I haven't been able to provide you with an opening date. And I think part of that is being I wanted to proceed with caution each week and provide you those updates that I have been providing. But the honesty is it's going to be a great park when it's all finished. There's going to be lots of potential for lots of play and coming together with community. But I'm not convinced that we're going to have it open this year. Will the public be able to see into the park prior to freeze up this year? Absolutely. They'll be able to see all the great works that have been completed. Zip lines are up. Other components are currently up. We have some great work done on pathway systems already connecting the two bridges. So lots of great work that has been done, but I'm going to tread carefully. Let you know that I will continue to provide updates every Friday, and that as we edge closer to the end of September, I'm hoping that I'll have that word that all structural development has been completed.
Okay, thank you for that. That helps. Thank you. So if I may, what I've heard is that I'll be able to take my nieces and nephews and my 22-year-old son to there to play on during Christmas holidays because the structural components will be completed.
Probably not.
Okay.
So I'm going to proceed with caution. Once we get to the end of September, when we have an opportunity to look at what's being completed, if we're able to finish the finishing work or at least get the rough finishing work completed, we might look at it a little bit differently at that time. But I want to make sure it's safe for the public. That's first and foremost. If we feel we need to fence off certain sections of it for this winter, we certainly will take that under advisement. But I really don't have a good answer for you right now, other than I need the next 2 weeks to turn over a miracle to see that completed.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate the updates, and I'll take an honest answer over a good one any day, so appreciate that. The other question I have is the Little Red River Park stage of development, when we're talking about the parking lot near the Toboggan Hill. Currently stockpile millings with construction to begin the days to follow. I wonder if we can have some more detail about what's planned there. I know over the years we have worked hard to keep it as close to a natural appearance as we could. The bridges, for example, rather than putting steel, we're putting wood-like structures for the bridges that were just involved. So my fear is that spring's going to be here and it's going to be asphalt and concrete all over the place. And I'm not sure if that fits within the nature of the park. So
Can
if
I-
can get some help on that.
Can I ask who you're directing your question to?
Administration.
I think I
Direct-
can answer that.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's a great question, Councillor Zurikowski, and I can assure you that we are keeping it as natural as possible. And speaking with Marcel, the Road Surface Works Manager, we have been working on this project for a number of years, it feels like now. And through that consultation process, instead of actually putting asphalt down, we felt that the best way to support the road surfacing out there was to recycle the millings, which is a fraction of the cost to the city. What it'll do is just improve the road surfacing, improve the drainage out there as well. You'll notice the biggest difference with the road, instead of having all that dust, right, it'll be a browny black surface on the road, but it'll make it much more enjoyable to drive through there. We are looking at a number of different options when we talk about traffic flow, making sure that traffic slows down through that area as well, and those conversations continue to take place. We have some ideas. We're just excited to push ahead and make sure that this parking lot development is completed before freeze up.
Yeah, okay, that was my other question, so thank you for that, I appreciate that. The wonderful thing about potholes and lack of drainage is it causes people to slow down.
Absolutely.
So I'm pleased to hear you say you have a plan to ensure that traffic does not increase in speed out there. My last note, if I may, is I appreciate the update on the airport maintenance garage renovation, that is completed and is over budget. It's nice to have that information now rather than later, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Head. Oh, hold on. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Yeaman, for that report. Those were the questions I had as well around the park and when are we going to be able to access it. So that was helpful. But I do have some questions, maybe not more for Public Works around the landfill expansion. I do see and hear the cost is under review, but I guess a little bit of an update on a quick version of what's happening at the landfill and whether or not, and I do see that the report's coming to September meeting, but curious on what's under review and how the project's going there.
Go ahead, Director. Oops, sorry. I did.
Two questions for you.
Thank you, Councillor Head, through to Deputy Mayor. So the project is going well. We're actually doing a final commissioning meeting tomorrow. So the landfill cell construction's all completed. We just worked through some deficiencies on just on various items across the project, but we are landfilling kind of on that new one portion that was the sort of new old section, and we'll be implementing our fill plan for the rest of it.
And so with the under review wouldn't mean that we're over budget or that, there's anything to be alarmed about, I guess.
Yes, I apologize, I don't have that.
Okay, and then I have another question around the former raw water pump house decommission, and it says that the project is delayed. I guess any timelines on that one?
I know they are going through the pre-commissioning works right now. I think we were looking at some commissioning and potential openings coming up into, I want to say October. So I know that's moving along as well.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, sorry, I had pressed off your button. I did. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just something popped up when Tim was talking there about the Rotary Adventure Park not being completed. So will people be able to use the snow, the toboggan hill behind that as we talked about?
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I think anything is possible, but I honestly would have a better answer for you come the end of September, right, where I know where I officially stand in regards to this project, but I should be able to answer that confidently by the end of September for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the queue, we do not have a motion on the floor. Councillor Zurikowski?
I'll move that motion.
Thank you. No one else in the queue? I'm going to open the vote. Sorry, which one was it? 6.8. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox-Epp?
In favor.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we are moving on to reports of sorry, did I? Go ahead.
Just for a point of clarification, I see we have some members of the Golf and Curling Club in the audience. And just so you know, it was not pulled from consent agenda, and the recommendation automatically goes into effect. And that was referred to Community Services for a report. So Community Services will be doing a report, and we'll notify you when that report is coming back to council and would be discussed. So I didn't want you to sit here through the whole meeting thinking that your item was up. It's been referred to the department.
There are
through the
two other
consent.
items that, as well, if you want
Yes,
to
but I
stay.
think-
So you are welcome to stay.
It depends what they're here for. Thank you.
It was referred to community services, yeah. Okay, we're now moving on to reports. Okay, thank you very much. Item 7.1, City Hall Main Boardroom Renovation, Report 22-315, a verbal presentation by Renee Horn, the Executive Assistant of the Mayor's Office. Go ahead.
All right. So hello, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to come and speak today. Normally, I'm the person behind the scenes, and today I've been given the opportunity to actually speak to one of my reports that I was working on in conjunction with the City Manager's Office and the Maintenance Division. So I guess briefly, I'll just go over this report. This all started back in 2020. We had many challenges due to COVID-19, and they really came to the forefront on our needs in our meetings and our daily lives here at City Hall within the the second floor main boardroom. So we had communication challenges, as many of you know, in our meetings with those from outside City Hall. And we also had issues with sanitation. Our cleaning protocols went from, minimal to extreme, and they stayed that way for 2 years. So back in 2020, the Mayor's Office, along with the City Manager's Office, started looking at ways on how can we fix some of these deficiencies within the second floor main boardroom. Obviously, we started with things that were free, right? We tried to make improvements with what we had. The main boardroom, it's used for most of our main city meetings, and also very importantly, the headquarters during municipal emergencies. So when we were having communication issues, we knew about it. It needed to be rectified. So some of the things we were able to do were new chairs. They were old and fabric. We weren't able to wipe those down. So between meetings, when everything else was getting wiped down, the chairs, we weren't able to do that. We also got a top-of-the-line audio-visual equipment. This assisted us greatly in communicating with our outside partners who weren't able to come to City Hall to meet with us as a group in one room. We also added obscure film. This seems minor, but the actual blinds that we had in there, they didn't even open. There was no purpose to them. So this allowed for some of that light to get into the boardroom because we were spending many, many hours in this boardroom during COVID-19. We did a carpet replacement as well. Most of you have seen that, and I think we got a lot of positive feedback. And through that, the carpet was so old, we weren't able to clean it anymore. All of those stains from years and years past just couldn't be removed. So now what I'm coming to you for is some money. So what we're hoping is to finish the renovations for the second floor main boardroom. I would want to say that this is not new money. This is money that we have in savings. We're not asking for a penny more. So what we'd like to be doing is remove the wallpaper, fill holes, and paint walls. We were hoping to add a feature wall, which is going to include the city's rebranded strategic plan messages. We're going to add 3 side cabinets with closed storage and a glass top on that left-hand side. This is going to give us closed storage, which we don't currently have. It will be glass top, so we can also be serving some of our meals for our larger meetings. The biggest is replacing the 2 large tables with 3 smaller tables. This will assist us in reconfiguring for different types of meetings we have to have. And we're also looking at 1 power outlet for network and AV options. This would be for the center table of the 3 tables. 4 battery packs. This is for an emergencies, so obviously when we've got our department heads working out of that room and others, if they need to charge their phones, charge their computers, they'll have that ability now. And 4 rolling tables. The rolling tables are EOC, needs to be set up within a fairly quick time period. The rolling tables wouldn't be stored in the boardroom, but we'd be easily able to bring them up for the basement, and then they would be able to be configured as the EOC would require it. So that's, I guess, the gist of my report, and I would welcome any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you for the report. I know we meet regularly in their office, and it needs this renovation, so I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you very much. Renee?
Thank you.
Is there any other debate? Nope. Let us open this for vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox up.
In favor.
Thank you. It's carried. Thank you. Next item. 7.2, 2022 roofing report, verbal presentation by Don Cheeseman. Go ahead, Mr. Cheeseman.
Thank you. So, excuse me, the 2022 roofing report's a little late this year. I'll give you a couple reasons for that. Number one is that we're not recommending to do any roofs this year. And the second one is I wanted to get these reports done this summer by a roofing company so that we actually had some science behind what we're going to be doing and how we're going to move forward. So we're recommending doing 2 roofs next year. And obviously in the reserve, the big concern is what are we going to do after that? Because the 2 roofs we do next year will be virtually draining the reserve, and the library, the JMC library in 2024 is very much a concern of mine. And, you know, I guess I need to understand how we're going to move forward. So in less than a minute, that's my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Edwards.
I don't have any questions. I thought the report was clear. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, the report is really good and interesting, I have to say. I found some interest in it. And looking at some of our current roofs, are you suggesting that the Alfred Jenks and the GMC looks like the ones that are needed the most? Is that what you're suggesting, or what we'll be deciding on at a later date?
The ones that are needed the most are recommended for next year. The JMC library, about 10 years ago, we did a bit of an upgrade to it to get us through 10 years, and the 10 years are up, and basically, if you read the report, it's a TPM roof. It's deteriorated to the point where it can fail at pretty much any time.
Yeah, the pictures kind of highlight that, and some of the ponding there as well. So any plans for these roofs and when they'll be fixed, I guess, and when you'll be looking at fixing them?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Is there any plans of when these will be addressed? When your plans are fixing these roofs?
It's all in the report, the years that they're going to be done. I just need to know how we're going to get the financing.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, I'll move to the vote. Thank you very much. The vote is open. Councillor Lennox up.
In favor.
Okay, the vote is now closed and carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Cheeseman. Next item, 7.3, the Culture Plan, a PowerPoint presentation by Judy McLeod Campbell, Arts and Culture Coordinator. Go ahead. Oh, just one moment. Feel free to go ahead if you don't need your PowerPoint shows, but if you do, we can
it can
wait.
take some time, that's fine. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to provide an update on the city's municipal cultural action plan. I don't know that I can be as fast as Dawn, but I'll try. All of you are aware of the background, so I won't get into that. We started the culture plan back in 2015, and we're in year 6 of implementation. In the past year, we did a reflect and refresh exercise to look at the previous 5 years' successes and then the priorities for the next 5 of the plan. Currently in this year, you're aware, $40,000 of city funds went towards the culture plan initiatives, and then we were able to secure another $30,200 through 2 SAS Culture grants, a CIF grant, and a sponsorship. Over the 7 years of the culture plan to date, we have received about 2/3 of the funding from the city and another 1/3 that we found elsewhere through grants. So in 2022, some of the things that I just wanted to highlight that we've been working on, so working with city communications on the cultural celebrations, and those are social media posts that we've been doing to promote cross-cultural understanding in our community and the different celebrations. We also do a culture catch. There's an example above. It's a monthly or more social media share of a cultural success story in PA, again, just promoting positivity and community pride. With the Indigenous Naming Initiative, Wilna was able to create an awesome video of the pronunciation of the Indigenous languages for River Street to complement the actual signage along River Street. And those you've probably seen on the City Hall Monitor and our website, and the Historical Society plans to use it as well. We also added welcome signage in the city's Indigenous languages on the billboard. And I just wanted to point out that in the last Knowledge Keepers meeting, they talked about the positive feedback that they're hearing, particularly from youth, in terms of seeing themselves through these initiatives. We've got 2 micro grants on the go, one for new or emerging events and one for equity, diversity, and inclusive initiatives. Play in the Park was an initiative we supported this year through the Culture Plan to have 2 plays through some theater at Riverside School and playground area. Reconciliation and diversity work with the Multicultural Council. One of the things through the Reflect and Refresh was updating our cultural inventory, so we've been working on that and hope to have it live within the next month. Artists and communities, we've got 6 different artists working in 8 organizations throughout the community. And this past April, we were able to have an exhibit of the work that they did in the various organizations. Still waiting to install the Little Red River Park signs. We've been working on the crosswalk art and following the new policy. So you probably have seen the different crosswalks painted, as well as some of the sidewalks able to use orange, with the Orange Shirt Day design. Culture Days is coming up, September 23rd to October 15th, so you can watch for many events by the groups in our city that are putting them on. And then some other partnerships coming up as well with Canadian Tire and PAGC to support an evening with Chief Delormes, with Parks Canada on a National Historic Person recognition for James Icebeister, and then planning opportunities for National Truth and Reconciliation Day on September 30th. Also currently working on a beautification project with some Second Avenue banners with Parks Department. I also attached the draft 2023 plan and budget to the report, and so that is our request again for next year's culture plan funding.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the presenter? Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Not so many questions, but just to highlight some of the great work you've been doing, I think it's, and you touched on it a little bit, a little bit more on the micro grants, and I'll move the recommendation, if you will, and I can provide a few comments, Deputy Mayor, yes. You know, when the deer comes to the city, hands-on opportunity. I find this would create a lot of pride in their culture, and I think it's a great thing for our youth as well. So well done. Play in the park. I missed that, unfortunately, but happy to see that those things are going on. You mentioned an evening with Chief Delorme. I encourage people to come out and see that, meet this, our Chief from Cowessess, very well-spoken, and I think that would be a great evening to take in. Second Avenue banners as well, another great initiative. I'd like to see that come together. Commenting on your logo, I think very, very nice, flying back home, a design uniquely for Prince Albert and design of hope. I know I have a few shirts and other things that I've been promoting and sharing. So well done on that. And of course, some of the utilizing the outdoors playground program. I know that's a big hit with some of our youth throughout the city. And of course, downtown sidewalk sale, a lot of people attended, a lot of people were out. So well done, and happy to remove this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Head. Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Judy, for your presentation and all the work that you do for the city. And I want to just add to what Councillor Head said. I agree with everything you said. One thing to add as well is the focus on multiculturalism in Prince Albert as well, so that people, our province is from many people's strength, and that could be our city. We are PA. This is PA. It's a multicultural city, and you definitely have highlighted that on social media, showing the different traditions, the different celebrations, the different ways of doing things, ways of knowing, both Indigenous and then from a multicultural perspective. And that is really, really important. So I really appreciate that, and thank you for all the work that you do for the city in your capacity.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Dion.
Could I just ask Judy Campbell to help, I'll use the word help, and contact the Grand Council and help promote some of their cultural events. Like I think Councillor Ed and myself attended Cultural Days. Lots of people did not know it was open to the general public. And I found it very interesting on how they make wooden boats, how they smoke fish, how they cook meat. They probably had 20, 25 displays easily up there. And it was really absent because it wasn't advertised to know that everyone was welcome. And it was just a great event on learning. And I think it would be a great cross-cultural experience for us all. So if you could just work a little closer with them. We know every year they have culture days, similar to the work that you do with the multicultural on Tassaframa and the rest of them, just to encourage more people to get out and share the opportunity with our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks, Judy, for the presentation and the passion you bring forward for all of the culture and arts in our city. We were just out at a police commission event, conference this weekend, and one of the presentations was about how arts and culture help reduce crime. And they talked about how they're doing all these projects and it's helping their city. Well, we are doing it as well, and I really appreciate it, and I like the idea of getting it out more into the community because it does impact all of the communities. So just wanted to make those comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And before I move to the vote, I would like to also remind everybody, part of the work that you have done as well is at the Mann Gallery right now is a beautiful ribbon skirt project that I encourage the public and council, if you haven't had a chance, to go and visit. So I'm going to move to the vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox-Zapp.
In favor.
The motion is carried. Next item. Public art update. Go ahead. Judy, go ahead. Oops, sorry. Oh. I keep
Thanks,
forgetting
and I
the
do want to
presentation
mention that example. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, I really had nothing to do with. But we have a wonderful community that does a ton of work, and I appreciate that I have the opportunity to partner with them, but we do have to recognize all the extremely important and excellent work that our community partners do. So, public art, yes, thanks for the opportunity to provide an update on the city's public art program. So I'm going to include some 2021 highlights. I haven't been here for about a year on this one. Some 2022 initiatives, and then the 2023 budget request. As well, attached to the report is a new 5-year plan for public art. So in 2021, the focus really was planning the major public art commission Passage Home, and I won't get into that because I know you recently had a report and update on that project, which unfortunately, like Little Red River Park, has run into some snags and a new timeline. So that did include soliciting grant funding for the artist for the artwork, as well as for a complementary project to be able to provide a plaque at the site and some further education opportunities. Facilitating the call for the artists, for the artist designs and the installation on the 2 crosswalk art projects that were painted last year, promoting the public art tour brochure in print and on the city's website, and a guided tour was also provided with Culture Days last year. Management of the Orange Shirt Day call for an Indigenous artist, which we talked about previously. Completed the public art inventory updates and maintenance. That's an important piece to highlight because if we don't look after our existing art, that's really important that we keep it maintained as well as any new acquisitions. Developed a public art donation guideline and donation agreement. Facilitated the call for artists for concepts for Second Avenue art installation, but unfortunately that project was not approved. And then the working group, again, consultation being key, and the partners that I have the pleasure to work with also discussed the new recreation development and some recommendations around public art inside and outside for that, and separate funding for that as well. So initiatives underway in 2022, of course, working through the commission. We had a picture up there of just the start of the Healing Garden and the pathway that I'm sure people have seen by now. And as I mentioned, we'll be developing an education component that was with a separate grant through Canadian Heritage to be able to have a video and photography documentation, as well as a plaque with a QR code that provides more information for people visiting the site. We had a mural donation project this past year with the Saskatchewan Council for International Cooperation. And so we had a week-long workshop with CBYF youth. And that installation and reveal of the mural will be happening in about a week's time, with reveal on September 21st morning. The crosswalk art, we've talked about 4 new streets this year, as well as some of the sidewalk locations with the Orange Shirt Day design. 3 designs in total. And then the working group spent some really good time developing a new draft 5-year plan for 23 to 2027, which does follow kind of the previous plan, looking at smaller projects, the public art stimulus grant, maintaining our current art, and then saving for a bigger acquisition as often as we can. So for 2023, the request is also attached to the report, and just to highlight those areas, Passage Home, of course, maintaining our existing art. We're looking at restoration of the Kenderdine painting here in the chambers. We did the Cuneo a few years back, and this painting needs some work as well. And then the Public Art Stimulus Partnership Fund. COVID is a little bit to blame, but we would like to see more businesses and community organizations and artists accessing that funding to help them to be able to create more public art in our community. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councillor Ogrodnik.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you again, Judy, for your report and all the work that you do with art in the community. And it's actually, I think it's very important, as everybody here knows. I support the arts and culture and heritage in this community. And what I'm amazed at is how much gets done on such a little small budget provided by the city, and the fact that you get all these grants and accessing of money to get stuff done, and doing larger projects. Passage Home being an example of keeping the money for a couple of years and then being able to do something large and meaningful and important for our community. And so I really appreciate that. I'll move the recommendation and just thank you again, Judy, for all the work you do.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, move to a vote. The vote is now open. Councillor Lennox up.
In favor.
Thank you. I'm still missing, thank you. The vote is closed and carries. Next item. 7.5, State of Playgrounds, PowerPoint presentation by the Parks and Open Spaces Manager, Tim Yeaman. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So I noticed there was just roughly over 7 minutes that my colleagues didn't use, so am I allowed to incorporate that into my
We
presentation?
actually took it away, so you're now down to 1 minute.
Okay,
Go
well,
ahead.
it never hurts to ask, so. Okay, and do I have the ability to be able to operate this? Sure. Okay, well, while that's coming up on the board here, I just want to thank council and I want to thank all our great partners within the community for all the great projects that we've been able to complete over the past several years, but even into this year, we've had some significant movement in completing projects. Carleton Community Club was one of the projects that we've been working towards completion with, and to have that partnership with the Carleton Community Club, having them raise $30,000 towards the project. There's still a little bit of finishing work that needs to be completed up there, but that project will be 100% completed before the end of this month. James Isbister Park, so another great project in partnership with Mr. Malcolm Jenkins and the city. We are actually holding the grand opening of that project tomorrow with Westview School. So that project is almost 100% complete. We have a few finishing details complete, such as lighting and that, but we are working with the appropriate departments to see that completed this year. Crescent Heights Spray Park is another great project in partnership with Malcolm Jenkins and the city. That project will be 100% complete by the end of this month. There's some surfacing work that needs to happen to the pad and some water flow issues up there, but we believe they're easy fixes. And that project, we're actually holding the grand opening for that this Thursday at 2 o'clock. So we're excited to see that one completed as well. Rotary Adventure Park, in partnership with the Rotary Club of Prince Albert and also Mr. Malcolm Jenkins on that project as well. So we've seen some really exciting projects. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to point this. There we go. Me and technology do not work. No. If you can just go to slide 4. Oh, try it again. Okay. I won't worry about it. It's easy to do a verbal. Okay. So I just wanted to let council know, actually, we've had some great investment into our State of the Playgrounds report. I remember when I started back in 2017 and we moved through this process and I brought the State of the Playgrounds report to council. And I just want to let you know that since 2015, year to date, we've had a total investment of just over $4 million into our playgrounds. So that's something that I think we should be proud of and we should celebrate as a community and as a city. We certainly couldn't do that without council's support, and we certainly couldn't do that without partnership within the community as well. If we can go to the next slide. One of the things that I did incorporate into the playground report this year was spray parks, because they become an integral part of our community and an integral part of our replacement strategy. So since 2015, we've actually invested a total of just over $1 million into spray parks. So that's something else that we need to be proud of and remind ourselves that we made significant movement in that area. Can we go to the next slide, please? So total investments in 2022 into playgrounds is just over $1.6 million. If we can go to the next slide, please. And then total investment into spray parks for 2022 was $350,000. So I just wanted to remind council of that. And again, thank you for your investment in our department and believing in us to help make that happen. If we can go to slide 7. So, or Midtown, yep, so we'll just go there. So one of the strategies moving forward, and something that we've discussed openly with council over the last several years, is that we review the State of the Playgrounds report every year, and then we sometimes will move projects up and down the scale depending on how they fared over the last several years. So one of the things that we've noticed is Midtown Park, Playground and Spray Park, is certainly deteriorating faster than we thought it would. And part of the reason for that is where it's located currently. It's located 3 meters off of 6th Avenue. I guess that would be east, right? And it is definitely a concern. We get a lot of splash up from the winter with the salt and rock products and everything else. But we also have all those large poplar trees that line 6th Avenue, and they've invaded into the play space and into the structures themselves, and are beginning to create a situation that's not safe for the kids to utilize. So in looking at this project or compared to Hazeldale, we felt that it was appropriate to move this project up 1 year, look at trying to complete it as an entire project, so not just the playground, but also the spray park together as well. And we want to make sure that we're thoughtful in this process, that we've taken into consideration community consultation, which we would like to begin as we move through the budgeting phase, because I think it's important to have those conversations with the community. But we also recognize there's a cost that's involved with this as well. In talking with contractors and noting the world that we currently live in with increasing costs, I wanted to reach out to some of our contractors and kind of engage and find out where we'd be sitting in regards to costs for this type of project within this next calendar year. So to remove the old spray pad and playground equipment, it could cost up to $25,000. Construction of a new spray pad could cost anywhere from $350,000 to $400,000. Construction of a new playground could be anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000. That would include consideration for garbage cans, bench seating, picnic tables, lighting, security. And then also, if there's a requirement to bring a pathway around the building to this new structure, we'd be looking at anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000, and that's on the high end. We know that for certain. So a couple of the financial implications or recommendations that we wanted to bring to council's attention coming into the budgeting process is that the current source of funding of $130,000, we'd like to see that increase by an additional $20,000, bringing that total capital playground investment to $150,000. We'd like to leave the operating capital at $70,000 because that certainly helps us, but we don't see a need to increase that portion of it at this time. And that would allow us to continue making this headway with the replacement of the playgrounds, but also noting that we have 1 spray park left and 1 paddling pool left. Consideration that a new capital investment from the city into spray pad and paddling pool replacement of $200,000 be considered, with a commitment from the department to seek out matching dollars through partnerships, grant dollars, and other funding opportunities to help make these projects a reality. I'm certainly have already begun those conversations. I'm looking for those partnerships, looking for those grant opportunities. But I wanted to bring that forth to council at this time because I know budget will be coming up, and it's something that we would like council to consider in our ask, because if we have those budgeted dollars in place, it's much easier to get those matching dollars moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So you did take the 7 minutes.
I'll pay that back somewhere.
Thank you. Mayor Dion.
So I have a question. I notice you don't have a spray park projected for Hazeldale till 2024. And I don't understand that. A year ago, we had 2 left. We're doing 1, so we have 1 left to do. And we've been doing 1 a year. So that means the only one we have left for next year, if I read the report right, is Hazeldale. And so I don't understand, and it's a paddling pool. So I'd sooner replace a paddling pool than use my money to upgrade some existing parks that are already there that have water features. Granted, they may be old, but they're still functional. And I think it's important that we finish replacing all our splash parks before we start at the start again and upgrading the ones that are now 10 years old. So I will be supporting Hazeldale in 2023 because I think that's just the right thing to do. We have 1 left to do. I give you credit. We've been doing them at a great pace, and thanks for the partnership. We also have a partner, so I thank him for that. But I don't think it's right on us that we've replaced every park that had paddling pools. We have 1 paddling pool left, and that's Hazeldale. And so I would sooner have us put some hold on equipment that is older, that's still functional. Some of these pieces are just old. They function. At least they have splash parks. This is a bedroom community that'll also serve Nordale that doesn't have one. So I'm going to bring a request forward that you reconsider at budget your priorities and that we complete and get rid of the last paddling pool that we have, and that's in Hazeldale.
Okay, and if I can just answer Mayor Dion's concerns, and I certainly appreciate them, and we haven't taken this lightly whatsoever. Hazeldale, there's more to consider than just replacing the paddling pool and the playground at this time. It's actually the building itself and how that is incorporated into that entire plan, right? I'm a little bit leery of bringing forth a development plan when there's more to consider as a whole package for that community. And Hazeldale deserves the best that we can give. And that means that if we're going to replace the paddling pool, replace the playground, that we take that building into consideration as well, the age of it, what is the longevity of that building. There's still some work that needs to be done and having that end of the conversation. And that's why we wanted to defer it by a year so that we have time to actually go through 2023 and actually begin that process and begin to look at that whole package. Midtown has a usable building and the infrastructure is already there. That's why we felt confident moving that project up and moving ahead with that project in this calendar year.
Thank you very much. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I disagree with Mayor Dion on this front. And I'm happy from your comments, Mr. Yeaman. I think these playgrounds in our city are vital, and definitely I love some of the wording in your report. Investing today, benefits tomorrow, and I truly agree that with that statement. Looking at Midtown, I've gotten a lot of calls from residents, and seeing kids playing in there. It does need some work. I went and reviewed. I'm no expert, of course, but looking at some of the equipment we currently have, it does need an upgrade. And so I'm happy to see that this got moved up. And the residents in that area will be very happy to see some of these improvements. I know there's some big asks here, but well done. And I think that's great for our city. So I will be supporting this Midtown part.
Thank you. Please. Thank you. Councillor Zurkowski.
I'll move the recommendation, and I've read it carefully, so I think I'm going to move that recommendation. I, for myself, am really uncomfortable when we have these conversations that pits one part of our city against the other. So I'm really hopeful that as we move forward in these conversations on this issue, we can take a bit of a more global perspective. What I've heard from the manager is that his recommendation is evidence-based, and it's not denied, it's delayed. And we've been through this a couple of times. I recall when West Hill was approved for a splash park, it was actually pushed back 2 years because Hazeldale got bumped up, and deservedly so. No, sorry, not Hazeldale, Miller Hill was bumped up, and deservedly so, because it was a long ways from any other recreational piece, and that needed to be done. 2 years later, West Hill gets her splash park. It's not denied, it's delayed. And I don't recall this manager taking any missteps in his commitments to us moving forward. That there's a plan in place, the plan will be developed, and will be acted upon if properly funded by us. So, my only plea to my colleagues is that we think of the city as a whole as we go forward in this conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Zerkowski. Councillor Ogrodnik.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Tim, for your report and your thoroughness of, and all of your work on the state of the playgrounds, splash parks, et cetera, and your plan and vision for the future. It's really impressive. When I first heard that we were going to delay 1 year Hazeldale, I had some reservations until Community Service Advisory Committee, when it was explained to me at that committee why the reason was moving Midtown up 1 year and Hazeldale to wait 1 year. We had to wait an extra year in Crescent Heights to finally get a spray park and that pool replaced as well. Why I would support the recommendation that we bump Midtown up is when you look at the safety aspect of what you talked about, right on 6th Avenue, it's a busy road. Plus, the neighborhood. I mean, and the hall, like the hall is there, the beautiful hall, a Midtown Hall, and then the 2 rinks that they have there. It seems like everything is there already, and what's missing is a top-notch playground and spray park. Whereas what I heard from the report and from you is that in Hazeldale, we need to think, how are we going to make Hazeldale to be top-notch as well? And work needs to be done on what we're going to do in that area to make it a top-notch playground, spray park, and hall or building like the rest of the city has. And so I support your work on that and your background on that.
Just please,
I'm glad you do.
we have someone who's speaking.
So to conclude, I will support this recommendation moving forward, and I will definitely support making sure that Hazeldale gets, as I said, a top-notch playground like the rest of the city has, and areas. So, and I'm confident you're going to design something with the community that will fit their needs, and Midtown will have theirs, and Crescent Heights finally has theirs. So I'm very happy with all the work that you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ogrodnik. Mayor Dion.
You always got to watch who has the ace of spades in the deck. And I give you credit, Tim, because you usually thoroughly do a report. But you missed one. I attended, and I think Jody Beloy attended with me. I'm going to get the minutes. We had a community meeting at Hazeldale. In the hall, they were notified that the hall had to be demolished. We came up with a plan to build a smaller building because they don't need a hall. They were going to share Nordale's hall. That's how good the community was at the meeting. And what our plan was to build a 2-car garage, something similar to a 2-car garage. Yep, you remember this, Miller. The left side of the garage would service the hockey rink, the mini hockey rink, change rooms, everything else. The other part of the garage would serve the playground that would face the playground and the new splash park. So we have a plan, and we had a community meeting. They attended, and they supported the plan. So that's why I'm objecting to it being delayed a year, because all the arguments I heard here, that plan has already been done. We already had a community meeting. We met with them. We told them the building's rotting. It's the floor. It's rotting, the foundation. The building has to come down. And they acknowledged they didn't need a hall, and it came up with the 2-car. So I would like you to do some research before the budget. I'm going to let it go today before the budget and find that report and figure out why it went off the rails. Because it was a great community meeting, they were very understanding, they knew the building was rotting, and we had everything. And so I've just been waiting for it to happen. And so I would like to go back to that plan because I think that plan works, that's all they need. And so I will be bringing it up again before the 2023, during the budget deliberations, to see if you found those minutes and if that plan is acceptable. Because we did meet with the neighbors, we had a great meeting, and we all agreed to that. So we've already done that process. So all we've been doing is sitting and waiting. And so that's why I think we've waited long enough. And I'm really glad that Councilor Zierakowski said that we shouldn't be fighting ward to ward. That's why I'm the mayor. I represent all the wards. So I'm being the independent, neutral one, and let's be fair and equal. We already have a plan.
Before, excuse me, order, please, order, please, please. Mayor, was that a question as well to, you did mention the director, and the director, the director is asking to speak because you had mentioned him. Thank you. He's not, it is not a debate, I'm just letting him have, because he was. Okay, order, please. Go ahead.
Thank you,
Director.
Madam Chair. I thought it was appropriate to just share a couple comments. Tim is aware of the background. He's built that consideration into this plan. Having some time is what he's considering as part of that plan in order to achieve some of the goals the mayor is referencing. We are well aware that funding is difficult in all of these types of projects to come up with. We're trying our best to balance what we feel we can achieve in discussions we've had with partners, and then also looking to achieve what we can utilize with the resources we get through the city's budget. We feel that by adjusting it by 1 year, it gives us the ability to work towards that. We still have the community club that does appreciate the hall at Hazeldale. They've communicated that to us. However, if we can work with them directly to come up with a plan to move forward with, we feel we can work with the Hazeldale community as well, along with the Midtown community, in this order to achieve both. We just need that little extra time to get there. Tim's done a good job, as you've noted, and I think we're close to that point. So I wanted to just make sure that everyone was aware that Tim doesn't need to do that research. That's already been completed. It's a matter now of how we get to that goal.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. One more comment, and again, thanks for the comments from the director. That does help. We weren't privy to that community meeting, or the report doesn't speak to that Hazeldale, meeting at all. And I guess I want to say that great point from Councillor Grodnick. The Community Service Advisory Committee, made up of the community, consulting with the community, had agreed to this as well. So I just want to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any other?
Tara Lennox, please.
Go ahead, Councillor Lennox up.
Thank you. Yes, when we look at last year's budget documents, we can see that the intention had been to replace both of the last two paddling pools by the end of the 2023 budget year. And as Councillor O'Grodnick pointed out, we have already had 1 year of delay in moving forward on those projects. Hazeldale has been patiently waiting for their turn. Last year, we understood that last year was Crescent Heights' turn, and that was understandable. However, I am hearing from the community of Hazeldale that they took what was said last year at budget time and the year before that, that they did take that as waiting patiently for their work to be done. And so I just wanted to make that point. I do not disagree that Midtown certainly needs an upgrade, and that is certainly understandable. I'm hopeful that we can find some resolution that perhaps it doesn't have to be either or. Perhaps there is a way to get something done in both of these locations. and I respect what the director and the parks manager have stated about planning ahead. It is only September now. Perhaps there will be some ability to be able to move on both of these by the time that we get to our budget deliberations in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Councillor Zurkowski.
Just one final question, if I may, as I listen to what everybody has said today. I'd like some clarification, because folks are going to chat between now and budget. What I heard from the manager is in Hazeldale, we're talking about a splash park plus. That's what we're talking about. Whereas I heard a two-car garage, I heard a building. And so while I respect a community meeting is important, and I'm glad that homework's already done, because that moves us quicker into a plan of action, and that can be budgeted for. A community meeting is part of a plan, it is not the plan. And so if I could just get clarity from the manager before we move on, and look forward to more conversations at budget about this. Is that the distinction, the disrepair of, A, the disrepair of Midtown, and B, that Hazeldale is more, we're talking about the plan, sounds like it's more than a splash park, it's plus.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Zurkowski. So Midtown has all the elements that are required to make something happen immediately. Hazeldale requires some more thought, purposeful thought, because there will be more of a cost involved in completing that project. I simply do not want to disappoint anybody. I could do anything if I have the money and if I have the manpower. I just want to make that very clear. I appreciate every place we have to go on trying to get as much done as we can. But I also just want to remind council, look at where we've come in 5 years, right? This is my 5th year with the city. We've come a long ways and we've developed a good plan. You've trusted me. You've allowed me to work that plan. I'm just asking council to trust me on this one, and we will do our best. If we have to make some considerations, we'll certainly go back and we'll have a look at things. But I don't know what that looks like for Hazeldale at this point and what the cost would totally be involved.
Thank you. So as the conversations begin about an hour and a half throughout the city about, that sounded a lot like me and mine, is a third option, let's move ahead with the splash park in Hazeldale, that's it, that's all. Yes. If that's what they're asking for, if that's what I hear what you're saying about there are other needs there and we'd like to fill those needs, having nothing to do with the building. If that's what they're asking for and if that's what the intent is for a splash park, you're getting a splash park like every other, sorry, I shouldn't say like every other, but I guess I'm just thinking about Councillor Grodnick's comments in the past about how community clubs may have different needs and little different areas, maybe tweaked a little bit to fulfill those needs. But as the advocacy efforts get launched, is a third option possibly simply splash park and that's it? Although I hear there's other asks from that particular community.
Yeah, I think anything is possible, but I would just caution council with whatever decision we make moving forward. I want to make sure that the facts are on the table, that we know what we're getting ourselves into. I think any community would appreciate the fact that if we put some forethought into something and we deliver the very best, the end result is always better than rushing ahead and trying to complete something because we don't know what we're getting ourselves into. And that's my concern. And it's something that weighs on me heavily every year when we go into these projects is which is the best park or play space to be working on this year based on our assessment again. And I think we've come up with that plan. But again, I'm certainly willing to continue that conversation and do that research.
Thank you, Manager. Or Tim, thank you. We have a vote on the floor. I'm going to open the vote. If I can find it. There it is. It is now open. Councillor Lennox Zepp,
In favor.
carries. Okay, moving on to the next item. 7.6, rates and fees, community services. Jody Belay, the Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Curtis wasn't able to attend this evening due to another matter, so I will present his proposal on his behalf today. Starting with, let's give this a, there we go. We always start our rates and fees review with a reflect back on our community services master plan vision. So we completed the master plan back in 2018, and it's important for us to make sure that this vision is a part of our decision making as we move forward. Some background on how our rates and fees are prepared. So the rates and fees for our city facilities are reviewed annually, and like many other municipalities, the recreational and leisure services for youth are more heavily subsidized than for adults. And we've seen through census data that the Prince Albert and area have faced some greater socioeconomic barriers than some of the rest of the province. So we do make sure that we keep that in mind when we're setting our fee structure. Further background around the manual itself, general admissions and memberships, youth and seniors pay 60% of the adult rate. Facility rentals, youth pay 70% of the adult rate, and all facilities, with the final goal being hopefully 60% by 2024. So we've been working on, again, keeping in mind the adults paying more and youth and children paying less. The Margot Fournier Centre has been removed from the rate and fee structure for 2023, and our classification, age classifications are there for you. We made a change a couple of years back and appreciate council support. Previously, under age 2 in aquatics was free access, but we moved to all children under the age of 6 a couple of years back having free access to our facilities, and we've heard some positive comments related to that. Last year, we have a recap of our adjustments that we made in 2022. They're there for your review. It's good for us to remind where we were a year ago and some of the changes that we implemented. Moving forward to 2023, of course, we have effective October 1st, the change with PST and its application for certain areas. So there's a recap here. Facility rental charges are not subject to PST. However, charges for admission to recreational facilities, swimming pools, field house, public skating, those types of services are subject to it. So we have taken all of that into consideration and have given those examples in today's presentation. And we are preparing for that change as we enter, well, not 2023, but past October 1st of this year. In the late 90s, actually when I had started with the department, the cost recovery with our recreation facilities where fees apply was just over 30%. So there's been a shift over the past 20 plus years in balancing the affordability and the accessibility that we just spoke about with cost recovery that of course helps on the financial side. So trying to find what the right balance is, and also trying to find some of those additional revenue sources that help at some of these locations so that we're not only relying on fees. So it's important for us to be sourcing grants and sponsorships, for examples, where it helps out the fee structure, but also helps out the bottom line and helps out our cost recovery. So as you can see, in the late 90s, we went from just around the 30% mark to the mid 2000s, that went up to about 40%, where in 2023, our current budget that we're just finalizing is projected at a 56% cost recovery across the board. You can see the different variations based on the location, and there's many different factors that go into the operations at those locations. For today's purposes and the time we're allocated, I won't get into all those reasons, but I wanted to make sure you're aware of that summary, and certainly you'll see more specifics when the budget is presented in Budget Committee in November. Aquatics, we're not recommending any increases for 2023. Over the past 3 years, we've made quite a few adjustments. They're noted here. We had summer memberships reduced actually by 6% as initiative to sell more. We have seen a little bit of a increase, but we haven't seen the full result of being able to evaluate that due to the reduced attendance during COVID. So we're hoping to see from 2022's numbers and into 2023 an adjustment there. A 5% increase to swimming lessons previously, which had some of our cost recovery built in, but also a market adjustment of 3.5%. And 10% increase to after-hour rentals at the Kinsman Water Park last year. So for each, I won't go through each slide. What we wanted to show you was snippets out of the attached manual. So the full rates and fees manual is attached to this report with all the changes. What I will cover though is we are recommending a 2% increase for the arenas in 2023 and also for when the ice is out. So this is any dry floor rentals like lacrosse, ball hockey would be the main examples, looking to recover there as well. For the banquet and multipurpose rooms, so specifically at the Art Hauser Center and the Chess Leach Room, we are recommending a higher increase in 2023 of 10%. We have completed research at many different regional, local, a couple outside of our city, beyond our region, where those fee structures exist. It's tough to get an apples to apples comparison because everyone's rental rates are a little bit different in what they provide for services. So you can get, for example, at the Chess Leach Room, an 18-hour time frame in this rental, pay your corkage supplies in addition, but then maybe go to another location, pay more of a rate, but get less time with that rental. So it was a tough comparison. We feel this rate has not been adjusted since about 2008. So we have went from a time period where the Chess Leach Lounge was by far the most expensive to now one that is one of the cheapest ones. So we feel the quality that you get with the experience that you're having at that location, that 10% increase recovers our costs, but it also, I think, is more in line with where the market is for comparisons for these types of multi-purpose facilities. Arena, this cost has been implemented previously at a cost recovery model, and this is for the new score clock at the Art Hauser Center. What we realized we didn't do the last 2 years was actually officially put it in the manual. So we've been doing it. We've been recovering our cost, as you see, but we haven't been, we didn't formally put it in the manual itself. So it's in our system, it's being charged in certain examples where it applies, but we caught that and made sure it was in the manual this year. Alfred Jacobs Fieldhouse, so there's a new cost for a turf birthday party package. We're seeing a lot of good interest at that location for this purpose. And we felt a package built around the turf made sense. We were getting requests for it. And that gets you a 2.5 hour time frame and access to either the Mahalcha room or the AODBT room on the second floor at a cost of $136.50. The Arts Center, so 2 different changes here. A 2% increase to our rentals is what we're proposing, and a $5 increase to a shelf rental. So that is for the pottery room in the basement. So for those types of programs, you can actually have dedicated shelf space for your work, and there's a charge with that. These I don't need to cover. I covered the rental rates already hourly, 2% increase, and there's a snippet of the shot out of the manual, and likewise for the daily rental rates. Groups and guilds hourly as well, 2%, so right across the board, and as well with the daily. For the A.A. Ronson Center, we're proposing an increase as well as 2% to the rental rates. We have not adjusted those over the past 2 years during COVID. We feel it's appropriate now to see some upward tick for the services you get, as well as the increase to the technician services. So over the past couple of years, we have seen our hourly rate for our staff go up. So If you require that technician service as part of your rental, we wanted to make sure it reflected the actual staff time for those events. Sport fields, 2% as well. There's a snippet there for, out of the manual. And likewise with beach volleyball and any private rentals, for example, of the outdoor basketball courts. Same for our outdoor sport fields and the track, and as well for the daily rentals at those locations. So in summary, in the 2003 rates and fees proposal, we have the PST application that we've identified, the arenas at 2%, summer rentals with the ice out, so the dry floor access, 10% increase to the Chess Leach Lounge. We've implemented the charge for the score clock and covered off the turf birthday party package, the art center increases, as well as the E. Rawlinson Center and the sport fields. Lastly, as council is aware, we're working on the new operating model for the new aquatics and arenas facility. That work is underway currently and will be presenting in a couple different phases, as I've noted previously, that model so that we can get input from you as council and also incorporate any input that you're hearing from the public as well, as far as what they would like to see and what those fees should look like. So we're taking all consideration into that analysis, including a resident and non-resident fee structure as directed by council. So that work's underway, and by early 2023, we'll be presenting our work on that to get your input. That's everything I have for that presentation.
Thank you. Mayor Dion.
Oh, yes. I forgot. I was so untruth. The only thing is, I just want the department to know, and a suggestion, and I think council will agree with me, wherever we have to charge PST, it cannot be included in the price. It has to be shown separately. So if the rate is $10 plus PST, I don't want you to say the rate's $10.50 and it includes the PST. I think it's important that the citizens know the costs that we get. And it's just like we show GST separately, we should certainly show PSD separately, because we oppose that being charged on fitness, because that's part of the health program to keep us out of the hospital.
Thank you, Mayor, absolutely. And we did make that adjustment to our manual this year. So the taxes, you'll notice, are broken out separately to come up with what that total rate would look like.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. So in approximately 2017 or 2018, I made a motion to have a different fee structure for residents versus non-residents. And I don't know where that motion ever went. I don't know what happened to it, I don't recall withdrawing it. No, it wasn't passed. I don't know where it went. But I still feel the same way. I still feel, and I hear from residents, that it's unfair that the residents of the city pay the same price for registration fees. I'm talking about registration fees for hockey, soccer, baseball, softball, whatever it may be. And they believe that there should be a $50, just for an example, additional fee for non-residents to register for ball that would come to the city. Because the residents currently are paying, I'll just use bathroom supplies. Those who are registered in hockey, the residents are paying to replenish those bathroom supplies, the non-residents are not. And that's where the debate comes in. If a pump breaks on the ice plant, the residents pay, the non-residents don't. So some cost recovery is important, and I think, I truly believe the time is right to add that. I don't know why we would wait for the new facilities. I believe if you're registering for a short sport like soccer in the spring, or baseball or softball in the spring, it should be a $50 additional fee to non-residents. If it's hockey, which is a little bit longer, and soccer, which is longer for the winter sports, it should be a $100 fee or something to that extent. But I don't know where we talk about that. I think it's important. I think that I'm going to make a motion not today, but to have that reviewed for the spring of 2023 implemented into the sports.
So
don't know.
just to clarify, Councillor Edwards, so when I noted that review that we're doing in conjunction with the new operating model,
Yeah.
that isn't just specifically for that facility. We're looking at it across the board. We have touched on it briefly in our consultations with the user groups when we were working through the design of the new facility, that was a review that was necessary. So we'll be presenting that early in the new year, not as far down the road as the spring. We want to bring that first phase of that operating model to council, and part of that review will be the fee structure. So
Yeah.
within that, in the early part of the new year, we'll bring that first phase of it for input, and you'll see those suggestions for that discussion at that time.
Okay, as long as we see it so the organizations can implement that extra fee prior to the spring registrations.
yeah,
'Cause I
that's
think they
exactly our
start in
timeframe.
February already, so. Some
Will
of
be,
them are
there's a
advertised.
bit of a difference in, based on registration, so,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
working with the user groups on how that can be implemented is certainly part of the discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zurikowski.
So just to pick up on that point, is that everything from pottery to minor hockey?
Yeah, so it's easier to track. There's a bit of a difference. So when you do registrations with the minor sport organizations, as an example, you have to do it at the time of registration, so we need to work with the user group to collect it for us and remit it to us. Because that's where they show their location, where they
Versus
live,
the
where they're
ones we
from,
do.
where they reside.
Yeah.
When an individual comes in for an individual class, we get that information that way. So minor hockey, for example, books all of the ice. Being a local organization, it's hard to decipher how many in-town and out-of-town people are at the time of them renting ice. Where to catch that is during registration.
Thank you. I have about 7 questions, so pace yourself, but they're quick hitters, so.
Okay.
What do you mean about the after-hour rentals? What sort of scope would that include, other than the Kinsman?
So at the Kinsman Water Park?
Yeah, is that?
That's where.
That's where, okay,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Yeah, 7:30 to 9.
Yeah. I was gonna talk about the newly